friends, and welcome back to another spooky story time. So this is episode 2, and again here I just wanted to say that I have told these stories in another video way back 2 years ago, and I just thought I would retell them because those videos don't have very many views, and I've had a lot of new subscribers since that time. And of course, my storytelling abilities and my comfort with filming has gotten a little bit better. So on tonight's episode, I wanted to tell you the story of Matthew Trilligan. So young Matthew Trilligan was a sailor, as many young lads from Newfoundland were, and he traveled the world on the sailing boats, taking goods and fish and all the wonderful things to other countries. And he liked a little nip of dark rum as well. So this starts off as a love story. So young Matthew met his love Kathleen at a family get-together one day when he was home from sea, and they quickly fell in love and became engaged. So when Matthew got back from his next turn at sea, they decided to get married. And as was custom for a lot of weddings that happen in Newfoundland, during the reception the men would go in one room and drink and keep company for the groom, and all of the women would go into another room and chat with the bride and probably have tea, maybe a little nip of rum themselves. And they were talking to young Kathleen about how being married to a sailor is being married to worry, because when they leave and go out to sea, you have absolutely no way of knowing if or when they're ever going to come back. So Matthew wanted to come in and see his young bride, and he heard the women gossiping and telling Kathleen these stories. Of course, he was a little bit up on the rum himself, so he walked into the room, grabbed a crucifix off the wall, and made an oath that if he were to be lost at sea, Kathleen would be the first to know, and he would come back for her. And whether he would go to heaven or hell, he would take her with him. So Kathleen decided to play along with her new husband and also put her hands on the crucifix and said, whether he goes to heaven or hell, she will go with him gladly. So of course the women folk were absolutely horrified that they had made this oath upon a crucifix. And after the wedding, the following spring, Matthew left to go to sea. He was going to Portugal. And so after he left, Kathleen settled into her role as a sailor's wife, which pretty much meant that she was going to be on her own. And after months and months of waiting, all of the ships, the other ships that had left in the spring, had come home, but Matthew's ship never arrived. So every day, Kathleen would walk down and look out through the Narrows in St. John's, waiting and wishing and praying that Matthew was still alive and he would come home to her. She shortly after found out that he had made his delivery in Portugal, and the ship was never heard from again. So the women were right, and Kathleen was constantly married to worry, because she didn't know if her husband was ever going to come home, or if he really had been lost to the ocean. One evening, there was an older lady that lived on Matthew's street, and she was looking out the window into the fog and the mist and the rain. And out of the fog walked a young man. And as she watched, she noticed that this was young Matthew walking up his street. But she said he didn't look quite right. He looked off. So as she watched, he didn't take any notice of her, but continued past her house and walked right into his own house just a few doors away. And after a few moments, the woman heard a terrified shrill scream, and she was frozen in place from fear. And then Matthew came back out of his house, carrying Kathleen with him. But she also didn't look right. She didn't look like she was alive, but she was laughing and kicking her feet as Matthew walked down the road and back into the mist and disappeared. So after the woman got her wits about her, she ran over to the Trilligan house and started to call for Kathleen, but was met only with silence. And as she went up the stairs into the bedroom, she found Kathleen dead in her bed, and she was soaking wet from head to toe and smelling of seawater. So it sounds like Matthew Trilligan really did keep his oath and came home for his love, Kathleen, and took her away with him where they could live in peace in the afterlife. So there you go. That is the story of Matthew Trilligan. I hope you enjoyed it. And remember, kids, stay spooky and happy Halloween.